Well, hello and welcome to Understand Men Now. I'm Jonathon Aslay of jonathonaslay.com, and I'm so excited to be doing this live stream for you today. Our topic, the 5 steps so you can be seen really valuable in his eyes. Those 5 steps to make you seem really valuable in his eyes. Now, really quickly, if you're new to my YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you can be notified of new content. And if any time during this live stream, or if you're watching the recording, I share something that resonates with you, please do me a favor and hit that like button as well. All right, we're going to talk about those 5 steps to become really valuable in his eyes. Now, really quickly first, if you're listening to the recording, I'm going to cover the content first, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. So don't worry, we're going to do the content first, and we're going to open it up to questions. And this will probably go for close to an hour for the Q&A. All right, so let's talk about those 5 steps to become valuable in his eyes. So let me differentiate, first off, kind of the difference between people who are emotionally mature versus those people who are emotionally immature. Now, I want to be candid with you. I personally believe that the vast majority of the population has weak skills in the sense of emotional maturity. They have weak skills or almost non-existent skills. Now, that's different than someone who's emotionally unavailable. I'm talking about actual skills to talk about their emotions, their actual skills to interact with another human being from a grown-up perspective. And when I talk about grown-up, I'm not talking about someone who pays their bills on time, that shows up at work at time, that's diligent in their professional life and that sort of thing. I'm talking about their emotional life when it comes to interpersonal relationships. And what I mean by that is when we interact with another human being. And this is so critically true, especially in romantic relationships. And I believe that the vast majority of men and women alike have weak emotional skills, okay? And if you really want to be seen valuable in a person's eyes, it starts by being emotionally mature. Let me repeat that. It starts by being emotionally mature. And whether it's the man or woman relationship, the best relationships are when 2 grown-ups enter into a relationship. And if you follow my work, you know I'm going to talk about books. In fact, I repeat a lot of the same, I share and repeat a lot of the same books because these are foundational books I believe everybody should be reading. So I want to start by recommending everybody add this to their bookshelf called How to Be an Adult Relationship, How to Be an Adult in Relationship. Because what's happening today is the vast majority of men and women alike are dating like children, because we've adopted this belief that we have, that chemistry, by the way, thanks for the super chat, but chemistry leads to relationship success. And quite frankly, that is the furthest thing from the truth. Chemistry is just the icing on the cake to having a successful relationship. So if you really want to be seen valuable in someone's eyes, it starts by demonstrating your emotional maturity. And there's 5 areas that I talk about particularly. Now, let me just say this, ladies, if you're doing these 5 things and you're with a man who doesn't do these 5 things, then you're in a mismatched relationship. You're going to be in a relationship. So you might be seen valuable in his eyes, but you're not going to see him valuable in your eyes. So what I'm about to share is interchangeable. It's designed for both men and women alike. And number 1, it starts with your actions matching your words. Your actions matching your words. Consistently. And sadly, a lot of human beings tell white lies. They tell, and because it's sometimes easier to get permission, or excuse me, it's easier to get forgiveness for someone than permission. So we oftentimes, many, myself included, I've yet to meet a person who hasn't expressed a white lie in their life. But what I'm talking about in relationships is that your actions are consistently matching your words. If you say you're going to go out with someone, you go out with someone. If you say you're going to be on time, for the date, then be on time for the date, okay? And this is a judgment I have about women, because I know a lot of women oftentimes are late for a date. But if you're going to say you're going to be somewhere on time, then be consistent. This is just one example. And I know, ladies, you want the same thing from men, because what makes a man in your eyes is someone whose actions consistently match their words. And I'm a big proponent is that while most human beings are flawed and most human beings have issues, we can certainly lead by example, And that's what I want to talk about today, is leading by example. By the way, Yoga, I want to thank you for your super chat. I'll answer your questions shortly. Okay. Number 2, and this is critically important. I see so many women that don't do what I'm about to share, is that you have victor consciousness and not victim consciousness. Sadly, here in the United States, and I can only speak for the United States, we are suckling on the nipple of victim consciousness. I mean, people are they're victims of everything going wrong. There's a victim of, in other words, so few people take personal responsibility for their part in relationship. I'll give you an example. I was with a cheater. I was with a liar. I was with a narcissist. But taking ownership, that's okay. Yes, that's an experience that you had. And certainly if you point the finger at someone else being wrong and that you are a victim of their bad behavior, that's not victor consciousness. Victor consciousness takes ownership. For example, I was in I'm making this up right now, but you're in a relationship with a person who was verbally abusive for several years. Well, you could have ended that relationship, after the 3rd time that they were verbally abusive. So the fact that you stayed for 2 years beyond that, I'm using that as an example, and I'm not in any way condoning verbally abusive behavior, but you stayed. So take ownership of that part. Take ownership. In fact, in the dating process, one of the things I'm going to tell you, ladies, I'm a single man out dating. One of the things I'm listening for is, do they take ownership for the reason why the relationship ended, or do they point the finger at the guy? If they're pointing the finger at the guy, that is a humongous turnoff to me, because what it tells me is they don't take responsibility for their part. Whether the guy cheated, he was a liar, he was a narcissist, whatever, he was a ghost or all that stuff. Take ownership on your part, because that's attractive to another human being. Remember I said this was interchangeable. So let me ask you, ladies, are you attracted to a man who has victim consciousness or victor consciousness? Please let me know. Okay, number 3, and this is where a lot of couples get hung up on, is they don't know how to do what's called fighting fair. And what I mean by fighting fair is that when a relationship is going to have friction, there's going to be disagreements. There's going to be friction in every relationship. What's most important is, do you listen to your partner's point of view, and do you accept their point of view as being true for them? Okay, let me repeat that. Do you accept your partner's point of view as being true for them? It doesn't necessarily mean it's the truth, it's just true for them. And an emotionally grown-up person listens to another person's point of view, accepts their point of view as being true for them, and that your partner does the same for you, because when you're having conflict, it's not about being right. And this is where a lot of men and women get hung up on. It's always, I have to be right instead of being happy. And if you want to be seen incredibly sexy in another person's eye, then be a person that's working on resolving the problem instead of trying to put your stake in the ground and say, I'm right, you're wrong. If this is resonating with you, please let me know. Hit that like button, because more likes, more people get to see this video. All right, number 4. And this is something I think women do a lot of. So I'm just going to be candid with you. And this is in the area of empathy. But empathy isn't just, I feel your feelings. Empathy means I care about your feelings. And women are actually rather good at this, that they genuinely care about a man's feelings. But this is where they get tripped up. Is empathy is also not at the expense of your own feelings. Let me repeat that. Empathy is not at the expense of your own feelings. And what a lot of women do is they literally make the man's feelings the priority in their life. And more so, they make the man's feelings about them the priority of their life. In fact, here, and again, I'll go back to the United States, we've literally adopted the belief is, I need you to love me for me to feel good about myself. And the minute you become dependent on, so if you care about a man's feelings and then you make his feelings dependent upon your feelings, that is ridiculously unattractive. It is so unattractive. And whether a man does, and that's basically the line between neediness. So it's okay. So what's attractive is caring about another person's feelings, not at the compromise of your own feelings. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating? Please let me know. Hit that like button. And number 5, and this is critically important, is transparency. If something is material to the relationship, then I believe transparency means you're going to share what's important to the relationship. And let's say, for example, in the early dating stages, it might be transparency, might be sharing that you've been unfaithful in your previous relationship. It might be sharing that you have an STD. That's an example of transparency. Okay, but I want to go deeper in the transparency. Let's talk about your 1 month, 2 months, 3 months into the relationship, and now you're having doubts about the relationship. Rather than stuffing it underneath the rug, which most people do, and the more you stuff something under the rug, the more you stuff something under the rug, the harder it is for two people to connect. So if it's material and transparent, if it's material to the relationship, then please speak up, because your partner will have a better chance of, if you're with someone who wants to be in partnership with you, you have something to work with to make this relationship shift from a relationship where everything gets swept under the rug versus something that's dealt with. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know by hitting that like button so I can see it on the meter there. So just to recap, and then we're going to take questions in a second. The 5 steps to being seen valuable in any human being's eyes is: number 1, your actions consistently matching your words. Number 2, you have victor consciousness and not victim consciousness. Number 3, you learn how to fight fair. It's not about being right, it's about being happy. Number 4, empathy. But empathy isn't just about caring about your partner's feelings. It's doing so not at the expense of your own boundaries, of your own standards, of your own feelings. And number 5 is transparency. If it's material to the relationship, then speak up. And as I said earlier, men should be doing this just as much as women. And when 2 people are doing this together, you're going to be seen valuable in each other's eyes. And I hope that helped you. For those who are watching the recording, I covered that. Now we're going to go into Q&A. But before we go into Q&A, I have a personal share with you. So I had a post in the community section that I want to thank everybody for the beautiful comments you shared to me, because I went very vulnerable with everyone. And I'd like to read it out loud and share some more personal thoughts before we go into the Q&A. And just as a reminder, if you're going to ask a question, either purchase a super chat, purchase a super sticker and write your question there, or write the word question and then post it, because I do miss a lot of the questions. So write the word question, then post your question. But I want to read this to you. It's going to take me about a minute to share. But I posted a meme. That said, I'm afraid of letting you get close enough to notice the cracks in my flawed heart. Scared you'll see the things I hate about myself. Terrified at the thought of you walking away. So I try and keep you at a safe distance. They say that love is blind, but I just can't take the chance. And this is what I wrote. Why dating feels hard for me, Jonathon Aslay. I said, my desire for connection and intimacy is butting up against the inner pain I feel. This pain causes my behavior to be unpredictable and perceived unkind at times because I'm floating in a sea of uncertainty. Therefore, there are moments when I wonder if I'm a good dater. Sure, I could say it's because I'm a grieving parent. Still, my pain goes deeper than that because it's a combination of past hurts, fantasy, expectations, biological drive, unhealthy social scripts, which are butting up against my inner value system to be a good person. And yes, I'm a grieving parent too. One minute I want to be in a relationship, and the next minute I want to run away. My heart yearns for a life partner, and yet everyone is a stranger to the inner me. It doesn't feel safe to open up because, God forbid, my humanness comes out making all kinds of mistakes. Add to this my professional life as a dating coach, and the burden of trying to be perfect is overwhelming. It's tiresome, like I have to be responsible for everyone else's feelings when I can't tell if they even care about mine. Cognitively, I know dating is a dance of getting to know someone, and until two people know each other, like each other, and trust each other, it doesn't feel safe. It feels terrifying to open up, and yet I want to be held so badly that it hurts. So I ask myself, how can I be in a relationship with another if I'm this fucked up? Can anyone relate? I had hundreds of comments from so many of you sharing how you related to this. And I want to say thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I shared this just to demonstrate that the dating process is hard because many of us are butting up against our social script, our imprinting, our biology, and then our woundedness, and also adult traumas. And our adult traumas can be many, from divorce through job loss, through physical ailments, through the loss of a child like what I experienced. And if you're not familiar with who I am, and this is my son Connor, who passed away a few years ago. And as a parent, it's scary sometimes to open up to someone because a lot of people can't understand what this pain feels like. And so I'm just saying this out loud. There's nothing easy about the dating process. It's not about just sitting back in your feminine energy and everything will magically work out. It's going to require heavy lifting. And that heavy lifting starts within. It starts by being that emotionally mature person I talk about. That's why I recommend this book, How to Be in a Grown-Up in a Relationship. It's the reason why I wrote my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? What the heck is self-love anyway? This was birthed by the loss of my child. And I share this with you because self-love is the antidote to inner suffering. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we don't have bad days. We all have bad days. By the way, there's a link to all my books in the Jonathon Recommends books there. So I want to fix this lighting. So there's a link to all my recommended books below in the Jonathon Recommends, or if you want to get my book, selflovethebook.com. By the way, really quickly, if my content resonates with you, check out the link to a free discovery call. Check out my membership called Midlife Love Mastery. All the links are in the description if you want to learn more about working with me. All right, let's jump into the questions right now. And I see a super chat from Yoga Preacher, so bear with me. First off, Celeste, thank you so much. And Yoga Preacher writes, not to pick on them, but I believe the vast majority of men are lacking emotional intelligence. Men need healing, but they have to admit that too. We single women are waiting for the healed man. So, Yoga Preacher, I'm in full agreement, men and women. Here's the thing, yoga teacher. Women just are as equally as have a weak emotional skills as men. This isn't just because women might be more emotional, doesn't mean that they have a real control on their emotions, okay? And control is not the right word. Really have the same tools. Just because you can talk emotionally to your girlfriends doesn't mean that you're talking on an emotionally healthy level. And I say this because most humans are myopic in the lack of understanding that they're selfish. Most humans are actually rather myopic and selfish. Women are just as selfish as men in the dating realm. Now, I don't mean it from a hurting someone else type of thing, but they don't realize that it's very human natured to operate from what's in it for me, okay? That's just the way humans operate. It takes a whole nother layer of emotional maturity to step into not only it's about my feelings, but my partner's feelings as well. And just because women might do that, they often do it at their own expense, which makes them emotionally immature. Okay. So I'm not, by the way, I know it sounds like I'm yelling. I'm just passionate about this piece is that, yes, I'm here to encourage everybody, every human being, men and women alike, to do personal development, self-help, and spiritual work so they can actually lean into loving on themselves so they can actually become a better partner for another human being and choose someone who's aligned to who they are and what they want. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating? Please let me know. So yoga, yes, it is true about men and women too. And I'm speaking as a man out in the dating realm. I can tell you that 99 out of every 100 women I connect with on a dating app are rather emotionally immature. Now, I'm exaggerating that number, but it's just to illustrate a point, okay? Men and women alike suffer. You know, the number one emotional health issue almost everybody is faced with is, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not likable, men and women alike. So just because there's this belief, just because women buy these books at maybe at a greater number, doesn't make them any better at it unless you've done the work, okay? You can have a book on your nightstand, but if it's never been opened, it doesn't count, okay? That's just my perception. So I want to thank you so much for posting that question. All right, Leaf, I want to say hi. Diana, I want to say hi. I am amazing. I want to say hi. Attila, I want to say hi. Casey. All right. Yoga says, thank you for these videos. Okay, Diana writes, sometimes you have to admit that you have a bad picker when it comes to men in relationships. Yes, that's true. We have to take ownership when we make bad choices. That's victor consciousness and not victim consciousness. When we say, hey, I take ownership for choosing that person, that is actually sexy. Okay. When we own our stuff, when we own our shit, that is a turn on. That's what makes us seem valuable in another person's eyes. I hope that's making sense. All right, if you have a question, post the question and then write the question thereafter. Deb, thank you. Definitely victor consciousness. Everyone keeps saying they're victor consciousness. One thing I love about, okay, Happy Ona writes, one thing I love about my significant other is that he will immediately admit if he's wrong about something and will accept the same from me. Yes, that's grown-up behavior. That's how two mature grown-up people approach the process. In fact, in the book 8 Dates by Dr. John and Julie Gottman, 8 Dates by Dr. John and Julie Gottman, there's a link in the description below. One of the chapters in this book is centered around, hold on, let me pull it up. It's called Agree to Disagree, Addressing Conflicts, Agree to Disagree. Now, I don't believe in fully agreeing to disagree. I'm a big believer is that, now what I mean to say is, express your point of view, accept your partner's point of view as being true for them. Agree with their point of view, and they should do the same for you. So you can agree to them it is important. Doesn't mean you're going to have a resolution per se, but one argument probably outweighs the other. And what grown-up people is they look inside and go, oh, I see your point of view. Okay, that makes sense. And the other partner goes, I see your point of view. Okay, how then can we find a commonality? How can we find common ground? This is why I'm a big believer of reading this book, Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. If you haven't purchased this book, I highly recommend it. It teaches you how to have grown-up conversations. And ladies, not that many women buy this book as much as men either. So I'm here to say, when you learn how to communicate better, you're going to have better results when there's friction and there's conflict. So I hope that sinks in. All right, so thanks so much for your question, Happy Ona. Patricia writes, tell the truth regardless of consequences. Here's the thing about truth. Again, if it's material to the relationship, I think it's very important to share. But in my book, chapter 1 is speak your truth, do it with kindness. Okay, I'm going to say if you're going to share a truth, do it in a kind, loving way. Okay. All right. Let's see if you have a question. All right. Oh, Yoga says, thank you for my letter. Thank you so much. I really appreciate everyone allowing me to share. I just wanted to say out loud what I was experiencing in that post, and I hope you found value in it. And if it related to you, I really appreciate that. Happy Ona says, how can I ways to be more transparent with an anxious attachment? I'm often afraid that if I rock the boat, will make me too much to deal with. My significant other is quite serious about being open with him. So, divorces cite, one of the things that most divorce cite is the stuffing under the rug of our feelings, okay? Stuffing under the rug our feelings. So, as I said before, if it's material to the relationship, and you speak your truth with kindness, there's a chapter, also another chapter in my book called If It's Sincere and From the Heart, You Can Never Say the Wrong Thing to the Right Person. If it's sincere and from the heart, you can never say the wrong thing to the right person. The wrong person, by the way, ladies, if you're in a relationship where you're walking on eggshells to express yourself, you're most likely not in the right relationship. I'm going to repeat that. If you're walking on eggshells and you're afraid to speak up, then you're most likely not in the right relationship. Because let me tell you something. When a guy really likes a woman, really likes a woman, you can make tons of mistakes and it's okay. And by the way, there's no such thing as a mistake. But what I mean to say is you can stick your foot in your mouth and that's okay. So long as it's coming from a sincere, heart-centered space, if it's coming from fear, if it's coming from unhealthy ego, you can absolutely sabotage a relationship. But usually if that's happening, it's probably because you're not in the right space to be in a relationship. Because again, if you speak from the heart and the person runs away, they weren't your guy. Does that make sense? I hope so, Happy Ona. All right, if you have a question, post the word question or buy a super sticker and a super chat. Yoga writes, look at the churches. 99% of women I go to Omega Institute or Kapalua, the largest yoga retreat camp in the country, or the healers attend all the women. All right, so I understand that. Yoga tends to be more of a female-oriented type of place to go for spiritual healing. But there's all kinds of other places. So for example, I did what was known as the Hoffman Institute, This is a deep dive into your childhood wounds and traumas. And I went to an 8-day retreat. And guess what? There was 21 men and 19 women at the retreat. 21 men and 19 women at the retreat. And by the way, they don't set this up by gender. I've been to more. I went to an Abraham Hicks workshop, and I can guarantee you that well over 50% of the people there were men. Okay, so I can understand that maybe that particular place might give itself more to women because there's a yoga component to it. All right, but there are plenty of other workshops. If you go to a Tony Robbins workshops, significantly a number of men, these other retreats. So here's the thing. Men and women are doing the work, okay? But here's what a lot of people do. They go to these places for a quick fix. What they're not doing is the consistent work. It's a daily practice of personal development, self-help, and spiritual work. And that's what I want to encourage everyone to do on a regular basis, okay? All right. Men never go to the doctors. Again, we can parse things out, but I'm just telling you from my experience as a man, there's just as many emotionally weak, skilled women as there are men. I Am Amazing says, question, how do you let a man gently when you know it's not a good fit? I'm assuming you say, how do you let a man down gently if you know it's not a good fit? Great question. You send him a text message saying it's over. Just kidding. By the way, my mug says, let that shit go. I'm drinking coffee today. It's not happy hour yet. Well, it is happy hour, but I'm not partaking in any alcohol. I will be doing an edible later and smoking a joint that's for me to help me go to sleep. How do you let someone down easily, gently? I think, quite frankly, if a relationship is over, what I recommend is using what's known as the Oreo cookie. The Oreo cookie. The Oreo cookie means you start with something sweet, you give the filling, and then you end with something sweet. And it might be, hey, Tim, I just want to say how much I've appreciated. I appreciate you. You've been a fantastic person in my life. And there's something I have to share with you. I've reached a point of recognizing that we are not in alignment on our relationship. I think we're in two different places in our lives. And as much as I like you and I care for you, and I know you like and care for me, this doesn't work for me. And so I'm moving on. And I want to make this transition as easy as possible for both of us. I think you're a wonderful human being. I want to wish you all the best, but this is where I'm at. Okay? That's how I would do it. Okay? Now, I had a conversation like this with a woman who I basically said I wasn't feeling it. And I wanted to be transparent. I said this was after about 9 or 10 dates. I just realized I just wasn't feeling real love for her. I was actually, after our first couple dates, I started to go backward, but I wasn't 100% sure. But I felt like I could start feeling our differences. I started to move the other direction. And that's what I simply told her. I said, I think you're a wonderful person. I'm just not feeling it. And I don't want to be unfair to you by continuing if I'm not feeling what I should be feeling at this point. And that is not the word love, but feeling a greater sense of like. And it was a hard pill for her to swallow. But you know what? I think we have to just be grown up about this. Again, be grown up about it. It's not you can't hurt someone else's feelings. Only a person can make up a story that hurts their feelings. She might have made up a story was I ended it with her, so she might say something's wrong with her and her feelings get hurt. But that's on her, because unless you have to call a doctor, an attorney, or a policeman, I'll repeat that. Unless you have to talk to a doctor, you have to call a doctor, attorney, or policeman. You can't really hurt someone. So just be open and transparent. Only they can then feel hurt based on how they perceive the events. But unless you smack them upside the head, you can't hurt them. I mean, I guess we can be verbally abusive, but quite frankly, this goes back to boundaries. And remember, I said, have healthy boundaries in your life. Is this sinking in? I hope so. All right, do we have any more questions? Again, write the word question or buy a super sticker. So Casey says, how do you ask the right questions to know if a guy is ready for a relationship? So Casey, that's a great question. I'm going to tilt my screen a little bit here. So one of the things in my private coaching practice is I teach women how to vet for emotional maturity. I put together a program. Check out the link to a free discovery call with me. But how to determine someone is ready for a relationship? Some of it you have to observe their, do their actions match their words? Do they have victor consciousness? Do they have victim consciousness? Do they act like they have to be right, or are they looking to be happy? These are just a couple things. But for the most part, ultimately, it starts by asking a very simple question. Everybody write this down. This is critical. Write this down. Ask everybody, before the penis ever gets to go inside the vagina, ask him, what does commitment look like for you? And how will you know you're ready for commitment? Bump, bump, bump. What does commitment look like for you? And how will you know when you're ready for commitment? This is a very ninja level advanced question to ask someone. I'm going to guarantee that 9 out of 10 guys are deers in the headlight. They don't know how to answer this question because they haven't given thought to it. So here's what you tell a guy. Write an essay describing what it means to you. If you want to, if this is, in other words, you put it out there. And if you want to have sex with me, you got to answer these questions. Now, I'm being tongue in cheek here. But my point is, start asking deeper questions in the dating process. You don't need to ask, God, what was I was reading some coaches or someone's documents that are like, how will you feel about your life 5 years from now? Or what was the most important accomplishment in your life? All right, great. Those are good questions to get to know someone. Let's cut to the fucking chase. How intentional are you in this process? Or are you just casually fucking around? Because most people are just winging it. This is what most people do. They wing it instead of being intentional. Have a list of 30 questions, real deep questions. You know what? I think the dating process should be an interrogation, okay? Not an interview. I think it should be an interrogation. Now, I'm saying this with a smile on my face. And what I mean to say by an interrogation, I mean, ask really good questions instead of just, well, I'll just sit back in my feminine energy because the guy is supposed to be chivalrous and he's supposed to claim me. And that's what men are supposed to do. They'll just claim that feminine energy woman. No. That's not how it works. You sitting back in your feminine energy is all that is you're sitting back in your feminine energy. Okay? What really matters most is having grown-up adult conversations. And so if two people like each other, if a guy likes you and you say to him, hey, Tim, I like you. And I think if we're going to explore a relationship, I want us to read this book together. Are you open to doing that? And actually reading it. And this book, 8 Dates by Dr. John and Julie Gottman, or talking about the 5 love languages. Oh my God, you should be doing the 5 love language test if you begin dating a guy. Look, if you got to a 3rd date and you're getting a 4th and a 5th date, then introduce this work. It will only scare the wrong guy away. Bump, bump, bump. Only the wrong guy gets scared away. An emotionally immature guy gets scared away. A person who's emotionally ready, because look at most of you have been indoctrinated by this stupid book called The Rules. It's all reverse psychology bullshit. Reverse psychology bullshit. And it's the reverse psychology bullshit that's causing many of you to have a frustrated dating life. Now, part of it is because, as I said before, we might be butting up against our wounds, and it's very natural to feel afraid. That's why it feels hard. I shared from my heart, everybody, what I was feeling, and part of it was because it was sparked by the loss of my son. But I'm also here aware of it, and I'm not afraid to tell someone these things. Start opening up. You only scare the wrong person, not the right person. I hope that helps. And I hope that helps you, Casey. All right. Let's see. Again, if you have a question, post the word question so I can find it. Bianca writes, when is it a good time frame to be intimate with a man when you really like and you know he will not ghost you? Okay. What's a good time frame? I think everybody should have sex on the first date. Just kidding. Okay. So I'm a guy. That's the way a guy would think, right? So when is the time to be intimate? I have a simple acronym to help all of you. It's called CARES. C-A-R-E-S. CARES. Okay. So the C stands for, first and foremost, do not have sex with someone unless you feel comfortable. The A stands, be aware of the consequences. And what I mean to say is if you attach to someone very quickly, then be aware of that. You could be attached to someone that you don't know very well. The R stands for learn his real intentions, This is why asking, what does commitment look like for you? So when someone says, I'm just looking for a casual relationship, Well, then ask yourself, is that in alignment with where you're at? Because casual relationships rarely go, I mean, they sometimes go the distance, but it's rare. So learn the person's real intentions. The E stands for, if you're going to have regular sex with someone, be monogamous and exclusive with one another. And the S in cares stands for safety. That's both, whether it's wearing a condom, whether it's the pill, whether it's being safe on your physical body as well as emotional safety, cares. And when you feel comfortable with all of that, that's a good time to have sex. At least that's my opinion anyway. I hope that answered your question, Bianca. All right. Diana writes, what if a man you like pushes you to have sex earlier than you feel ready, then stops calling you when you nicely refuse? Well, so what's your point with that question? Yeah, so that happens. Okay, you're not ready and he moves on. Okay, so what's the real question? I'm challenging you on this because what really matters most is you can judge his behavior. Someone who tries to have sex with you, doesn't accomplish it. We could judge that behavior, or what we can say is, what did I learn from this experience? What did I learn about myself from this experience? Maybe you learned that you have healthy boundaries, and that's a good thing. What are you grateful for from this experience? That's what I'd rather focus on than what's wrong with the, not that you said this, but what's wrong with the person. Rather focus on, what did I learn about myself? What am I most grateful for? That's a more healthy way to approach it, because that's how a grown-up approaches it, because the victim consciousness points the finger at the other person and makes them out to be wrong. And this is where a lot of women, I'm going to say this, a lot of women are swimming in victim consciousness. It's one of the reasons why they're unattractive in our eyes. And I'm not saying every woman, I'm saying a lot of women. Okay? All right. Adrian says, I finally got into your feed, live feed. Thank you so much. Kathy gave me a super sticker. Thank you so much, Kathy. Guru says, block him, dump him. Kathy writes, question, I'm very fortunate to have found someone who is ready for commitment, but his kids fear that I'm after his wealth. How do I respond to this in a healthy way? A prenup? So first off, how are you aware that his kids feel this way? Is he the one telling you what his kids feel? Now, I can understand why a lot of children will feel that way. A lot of people in their second or third marriage get married to someone else, and they, and what happens is that wealth goes to the next person, that they marry. So a lot of children are concerned about that. I think what's most important is have healthy dialogue. It might be something that could, if you're going to get that serious in a relationship, maybe a prenup should be discussed. Maybe having a meet with an attorney would be a good idea. Those are a couple things you can do. But to help alleviate the kids, I think what's most important is to talk to your partner as to why his kids are actually feeling this way. And how old are these children? Are we talking about 6 years old, or are we talking about 25-year-olds? And I'm a big proponent that if someone has children, that they should create a trust. I created a trust for my son, that so matter whoever I end up, meeting in my life and marrying, I've set up a trust for my son already, and I'm not going to break that trust for anyone else in my life, because I've designed to give that to him. So what I would recommend is your partner create a trust for your children to know what they're going to get, and anything that happens, if and when that person gets married, they can make a choice then. That's at least my suggestion. Okay? Hope that helps, Kathy. I hear static as well. You hear static. Okay. Sorry about that. I don't understand what's causing the static. I don't have anything going on. I'm really sorry about that. Okay, please fix your audio. There's static. I don't know what's going on. Did it just start, the static? Did it just happen? Can someone write and let me know? Are you still hearing static? If we are, we might have to stop at this point. Okay. Total Chill Girl writes, what about a man who tells you that he wants you to chase him? So I like this question, Total Chill. So there's still static. I'm really sorry. I have no idea what's causing the static. Let me check. Okay. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Well, okay. So let me go back to Total Chill. What about a man who tells you he wants you to chase him? So what he's really saying is, what that man is saying, and I can relate to that, is I want a woman who makes an investment into the relationship commensurate to the investment I'm making in the relationship. And I don't mean financial investment. I mean in the investment of making effort. So if he texts you a cute message, then the next time you text him a cute message. If he says something endearing, then you say something endearing. What he's really saying is he wants you to meet him so he knows you care about him. It's not chasing. It's he wants to know that you care about him. And maybe there's some sort of avoidant behavior going on within you. I'm not saying that's what it is. That's what it could possibly be. All right. Says static since the beginning and some lagging. Okay, I am so sorry about that. Everything looks fine on my screen. Well, you know what? If we're having problems, then I'm going to log off for today. I'm really sorry. I don't know what's happening that's causing all the static and everything. I'll see if I can't have it fixed. It's probably I'm going to have to use a different browser next time. So maybe this is a good time to wrap up for today. Everybody, I'm sorry for the static. I'm sorry about the fuzziness. This is just part of technology. Everyone, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for allowing me to share with you today. This brings me a lot of joy to be able to come to your home or your car or your smartphone and share my perspective. I hope you have I hope you get value from this. I'll definitely work on trying to fix the microphone going forward. So we're going to wrap up today. I hope you again found value in this. And I'm going to sign off as I always do. First off, giving myself a big, gigantic Jonathon Bear hug of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love if that's okay. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone or a pet or a teddy bear and give it or them a hug of love, because hugs are a great source of love and we can all use more love in our lives. I want to thank you a bunch and wishing you a super duper wonderful day. Bye-bye now.